Hey everybody. So I'm Stu Maschwitz. If for those of you who maybe don't know everything about me, I started my VFX career at Industrial Light and Magic. Then I started my own company called The Orphanage, and I've worked on a bunch of movies, and I wrote a book about filmmaking. Thank you, I appreciate that. So last year, I released an animated film called Tank through Red Giant. I guess I should also mention that I'm the Chief Creative Officer of Red Giant, for those who don't know that. The gentleman over there wore a Battlezone shirt to the event today in solidarity with Tank, which I thought was pretty cool. If you watch the making of Tank, you may have learned kind of a weird fact about me, which is that despite my sort of nerdy pursuits and my live action filmmaking stuff, my actual degree is in animation. So, in fact, I went to school, animation school at CalArts, and I'm old enough that the generation I was a part of there has become very successful directors at places like Pixar, including my former roommate, Mark Andrews. He was my roommate in the dorms at CalArts, and this is him winning an Oscar for directing the movie Brave with Brenda Chapman there at Pixar. So Mark and I have stayed in touch over the years. We're still good friends, and he was kind of wanting to make the transition from animation to live action filmmaking, and was going to do a short film, because you all know that the key to success is making a short film. It's all easy. After you do that, Hollywood rolls out the red carpet. Apparently what I didn't know is that winning an Oscar for directing a movie is not enough to convince Hollywood that you can direct a movie. So Mark wanted to make a short to really stick it to him. It's kind of an interesting experience because like, what do you do when your Academy Award-winning director friend says, hey, I want you to be my cinematographer on this film I'm shooting, and you say, you know, I'm not actually a competent cinematographer, I'm not qualified to do that. And he says, you post all these pretty pictures on Instagram of all your camera gear, is that all it's for? And I was like, that's cold. So what I said to Mark is, I will be your cinematographer, but only if you let me do all of the color correction and visual effects for your film. This is a photo of that conversation. So I'm a pretty tough negotiator when it comes to that stuff. So we shot this little short film. That's me. In the one case in my life where I haven't been tall enough for something. We shot over the course of 9 days at this camp in the California Sierras. The story is kind of a badass action fairy tale. It's like these guys versus these guys. Mark is super into Celtic lore, and apparently in Celtic mythology, fairies are not little deepy-doo, they're like these badass dudes. If I look terrified there, it's because I'm about to operate and pull focus at 200 millimeters on full frame, wide open. So this is basically the entire, the story of this is me not knowing what I was doing, getting in way over my head and taking on way too much work myself, including lighting. It was a 9-day shoot. 3 of those days were entirely stunts. Here's Stu doing a stunt. Sorry for the butt crack. Mark stepped in there just in time to save you from having to see it again. The Stu crane goes from 8 feet to the deck at the minor expense of the pitch of my voice. So anyway, we had a really good time. And at the end of it, we wound up with about 56 visual effects shots for me to do. And the title of the talk is the One-Person VFX Pipeline. I did have help. You can see that there's more than one person shared on this Airtable spreadsheet. Hey, let's talk about this Airtable spreadsheet for a second. It's really cool. This is how I track all my shots. And it has this cool grid view. And every shot has a little thumbnail. And this is where I had to kind of go from being a little bit disorganized guy with a bunch of camera gear who got shamed into shooting a film and start to get organized. And so I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the process of what we did here. So the things that kind of saved my butt in putting all this together is After Effects. You guys know I do everything in After Effects, like make my family greeting cards in After Effects. Automation, which is like kind of has always been my favorite thing, but we used to call it stuff like scripting and being a total nerd, and now it has like a cool, like Apple sanctioned name, automation. Red Giant, we'll talk about that in a little bit. And Frame.io. Man, we use the living hell out of Frame.io. In fact, on this little project, at one point I got like a very nice email from the Frame.io guys going, "You're using this a lot." Like I guess they track usage statistics, and they're like, you're up there, man. Like you're really cranking on this thing. So we use the living hell out of it. In fact, we used it right off the bat to do our VFX Spotting Session. So I'm not like gonna blow you away with my super awesome Frame.io skills, but I just kind of wanted to show you like the fun process here of like, this is just the whole movie. The rough cut, I'm not gonna show it to you, it's 20 minutes long. But I love like, I love this. Mark is like one of the most talented artists in the world. And I love that like, he's like, yeah, you're seeing some pretty excellent comments here, like bloody stump sequence. Where's this little shitty drawing? He had a terrible little drawing on here. There's like some of Mark's like little thumby drawings. Mark immediately got into Frame.io. Like he put it on his phone. I would post a take for comments. I'd immediately get a note back from him, and it would usually have like a drawing in it. And then the next comment would be, "Ignore the drawing. Just do what just do the right thing." A little dripping. A lot of notes on this one. So we spotted all the visual effects in this session, but at some point we kind of needed to take that to the next level and make all those thumbnails and get it into Airtable. So that's where we switched over to After Effects. So I wanted to show you guys this amazing thing, and I kind of lazy-webbed this, by the way. I wrote an expression that would take the name of the layer below it and show it up there. See the yellow text up there, and then I kind of was so proud of myself, I posted it on Twitter. And some dude whose like icon is just a cat posted back and like fixed it for me. So that's what I mean by automation. Post your bad ideas to Twitter, and Twitter will automatically tell you what you did wrong. So see this little window here floating around here? So this is an application called Keyboard Maestro. So Keyboard Maestro is an automation tool for the Mac. And what's neat is that it can automate stuff that it doesn't even want to cooperate with being automated. So if you look at what the Keyboard Maestro thingy looks like here, this is one that I use every time I create a new shot directory. So every time, 55 or 6 or 7 of these shots, I'd hit this button. It asks me for the name of the shot, makes all the things. It makes a little text file that has all the slate information in it. And then in After Effects, I read that text file, and the slate is automatically generated. I'm really into this thing that I call procrastinactivity, which is that when you have a lot of work to do, I like to do something else. So, automation. The goal with automation is to save more time than you spent building the thing. That never happens. So I'm going to just find. I've got the entire movie here broken down, and you can see that this is a visual effects shot. One of the most popular visual effects sequences is a sequence called CF, for camera fix. Remember I mentioned that I was incompetent and that the only reason I could be the DP on this was that I was going to do all the post. So there's a big blob of sensor dust on this guy's forehead, and I'm going to be removing it. Hopefully with content-aware fill. Wouldn't that be cool? But here's a shot that's not VFX. So the expression is up here on this layer here, and it's just a big old expression that just basically says, if the layer is named COS, the film is called Circle of Stone. If the layer is named COS something, then put no VFX up there. But if it's named anything else, put the name of the layer up there. And so we would get to a frame that was going to be like our hero frame for a shot, and I hit this little button, and I give the shot a name. So let's call it NAB01. And it automatically, oops, I said it automatically. There's one aspect of that didn't quite work. Let's do it again. Let's try that one more time. So, NAB02. There we go. So, rendered out, actually that one rendered out a movie, but the key is that it made that thumbnail, put it in a Dropbox folder, automatically rendered it, all that stuff automatically at the push of a button, and it's so very simple that it almost worked. But we did that over the course of this spotting session, so we go through, find every shot, give it a name, and then the producer was on her laptop with that shared Dropbox folder. She gets those, she drops them into Airtable. All right, so let's actually do some of the fun stuff here. So I wanted to show you like a bit of my incompetence. So every first-time director that you work with, including me, I have done this on my first directing gig. I wanted to do what every first-time director wants to do, which is a 360-degree Steadicam shot. I don't know what it is about your first time like directing anything, but you really want to do a 360-degree shot. I think it has like this thing about like you don't trust the fundamental thing about filmmaking, which is that like cutting back and forth between things might work, and you're like, no, I'm going to prove to everybody that there was no boom mic. Well, there actually was. He was standing behind me. So that was so of course, Mark, first time live action directing. Not really, he's done plenty, but he's like, we're going to do a 360-degree gimbal shot. And there I am out in the hot sun, like setting up my crappy little gimbal. And remember, I'm incompetent, so I got to the point where like I was like, I got it like 90% balanced, but every time we do the full 360, like it kind of comes out not level. Like you can see, we lost the horizon here. So in After Effects, I've got this. So I don't know how well you guys can see this, but like that, there's my shot. So it starts off like that. You guys see the little wireframe there? And goes like that. I got a lot of keyframes on this fixing it. Ostensibly, the purpose of this visual effects shot was to add the police lights, but there I'm just barely running out of room there at the end. So I think I'm a pretty good DP, as long as I can do this and touch every shot in post. So, and again, back in Frame.io, that's where that shot would get reviewed and get Mark's loving comments. All right, so let's talk about a slightly heavier duty shot here. Now this one I'm not going to take the hit on. Okay, so this is a little violent, but spoiler alert, things don't go well for one of the sheriffs here. And so this is on the docket to be a visual effects shot because we had these half swords, and as this guy pulls the sword out of her, I've got to replace, you know, with a digital sword coming out of her there. But the other thing that happened is that, and this happened frequently because I'm incompetent, is that as the A camera operator, my shot would be like fine, but the B camera operator shot would be much better. And so that's what this is. This is the B camera shot. But that means that it wasn't quite staged to this camera, and so the idea here is that this fairy guy who comes in and cuts her throat, sorry, is supposed to be out of the shot, but instead he's just hanging out back there because he thought he was done. So I got to remove him. So I'm going to show you how we did that. So I got this little patch here, guy patch, and we have this plugin from Red Giant Corner Pin, and what you're seeing here is a little sneak peek at a forthcoming update to it that we're so thrilled about that we have changed its name to Kingpin. Thank you. And I hope you agree that it is the king of all corner pinning plugins. But what you see here is that this is the area of the shot that I'm actually going to track, and this is the area of the shot that I'm ostensibly pinning back into place, but the pins are driving this little patch. So now I got to track it, right? So presumably I would go out to Mocha and do that. Nope. I'm just going to track it right here. The tracker is so fast that actually the After Effects window can't update, so we made our own little update window showing it tracking down here. And then I'm going to go back to this frame, and I'll just track backwards to the beginning of the shot until the tracking area goes off frame. And you can see now, sorry, nice lady, but yeah, we have fully removed the guy, and that's tracked in there with motion blur and all that good stuff. And it can even render and play back on my poor little tiny laptop here. So that's Kingpin. Kingpin has saved my butt a few times on this show. It's really an amazing tracker. I have a shot where I'm just like adding a little droplet of blood to someone's chin, and I'm literally just tracking stubble, and it's working great. And there you can see, let's take a look at those glorious words that we love to see. So I actually did share, I was so excited about this working out that I shared it with the team, like, oops. There's the track and the removed guy. And you can see all the like, Mark loves to final things. It's like, it kind of takes some of the fun out of it because I'm like, actually, Mark, I have to add the sword and I have to like do all the actual work. Like, and also the other thing Mark loves to do is those terrible drawings. Remember, Mark? So Mark's career was that he was like the head of story on Iron Giant. So that's how he met Brad Bird. They worked together on The Incredibles. He was the head of story on Incredibles and Ratatouille. So Mark is like paid to draw. And so, and I'll talk just real briefly too about something we did on the shot that's a little ridiculous, which is this thing I call VFXitis, which is that once like a shot is a visual effect, then everything about it has to be perfect, which is a burden that like a non-visual effect shot doesn't have. So I actually replaced the sword. Like, I don't know if you saw it before, but like it wasn't really in exactly the right spot in a very human stunty way. So I actually removed it and replaced it and actually had it like kind of go into her throat a little bit. I'm so sorry for all the murder. And you can see we have a little Andrew Kramer blood element there. He's in every presentation, whether he's here or not. And yeah, he just gives and gives to the community. So Mark is like, no amount of blood is enough for Mark. This is Mark also commenting from his wife's account gloriously. All right, so let's get that frame to come up. Come on, frame. Am I using Frame.io wrong? Oh, it's the wrong take, that's why. I have this hilarious take of this where where it's one of those, like, he draws exactly what he wants the blood to look like, and it kind of looks like a 6-year-old drew it, and then he's like, just please ignore that. But these are the glorious words that we want to hear. The blood is brighter, the shot is final, and there you can see my CG sword that I've added in there too. Okay. So there's one more shot to talk about. Let's see here. Oh, and it's in here. Oops. Sorry, I'm very tall and very old, and I have to lean over to look at my computer here. All right. So, of course, there's guns. The other popular sequence in this is the GF gunfight sequence. So, again, here I've got like a simple kind of comp setup. We shot A7S2 in log. We've got some muzzle flashes kind of choreographed in here. And so this is just kind of what I would call like a slap comp, just kind of getting all of the timings and the elements, and I've got my little 3D shells and whatnot. And so let's find one of those muzzle flash frames. Okay, so and I've also got a little bit of like gun smoke element, and as you can tell, it's all kind of garbage at this point. So how do I make this good? Well, I have all these dirty tricks that I have learned over the years in compositing about things like muzzle flashes and smoke, and they have to do with things like taking a copy of the muzzle flashes and kind of tweaking it around a little bit and then using it as a map to blur the background. All of this requires like kind of a dense network of pre-comps and After Effects. It's the kind of thing where I do a tutorial on it and everyone goes, that's cool, I will never do that. And remember, I've got 55 shots to do here. So in the ultimate act of procrastination, I made myself a little plugin. I didn't make the plugin. Red Giant made the plugin, but I'm very proud of it. So I'm going to select all these layers here, and I'm going to go down to Red Giant Visual Effects, and I'm going to apply Supercop. So this is Supercop, guys. Let's stick it below the line. All right. So what Supercop does is it comps all your layers together for you in a way that is much more complicated and integrated and yet simple to manage than just a stack of layers in After Effects. And I'm going to attempt to show you how it works real quick. So all of those layers that I started with are now layers in this Supercomp panel. And I'm going to do a couple little housekeeping things like identify the color space. This one is log. And my output is going to be log. And so now everything looks right again. But notice that the shells didn't need any color tweaking, and the flashes didn't either. Now the flashes were in screen mode down here in After Effects. Supercomp recognized that and made them additive. And so what I'm going to do, let's see, to the foreground flashes. So this is what I don't like. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but like basically where the muzzle flash is kind of transparent, maybe I'll find a slightly better frame to look at here. It's like, just looks a little anemic. Doesn't really look like it's got a lot of like heat and distortion and all the stuff that we would want from a muzzle flash, right? So I've got this little effect I'm going to apply here called heat blur. And what heat blur is going to do is just do exactly what I was talking about, just blur the background. So even though this is an effect that I've applied to the muzzle flashes, it's actually blurring the background. But it's like a property of the muzzle flash. And I can add a little glow to that too. We have this super killer glow that we've been working on called optical glow. And I'm just going to crank the size way up, make a big, big, big soft glow. You can see I'm getting like a little interactive preview up here of just the element. And then out here I'm seeing, you know, the whole thing. So I'll just crank down the amount because it's all about being tasteful here at NAB in Las Vegas. And that's looking pretty good. Now I really got to fix that smoke. So the smoke element was just shot on black, and all I've done is just swapped it around so I've got an alpha channel for it. So there are, as you can see, a lot of effects that I can do here. I got light wrap, I got all this cool stuff I can do, but I'm lazy, so I'm going to use a preset called Gunsmoke, and that automatically adds these effects here. And what you can see is that the smoke has become awesome, and I want to show you how awesome that smoke is by moving it around a little bit. So the fact that I can move around this layer is actually kind of a big deal too. So many, many, many layered effects are working together to make this sing here. But look at as I grab that smoke and move it like in front of this background, it kind of takes on some of the lighting. It's like super integrated into this shot, right? And if I move it over in front of this muzzle flash, it becomes like backlit. So again, all of this would take me an hour to show you how to do in After Effects, and you still wouldn't get it exactly right. And then if I did something stupid, like say, hey, can we change the order of these layers or whatever, you would just run and jump off a building. So with Supercop, it basically plugs right into your existing After Effects workflow, but it's like all of Stu's dirty compositing tricks in one place in a nice, easy stack of layers with cool effects on them. And let's fix those shells here real quick. Shells. I got a preset for the shells too. Doing a little color correction on them. Color correction. And now the shells are going to have proper light wrap and all that good stuff on them too. So, in short, the fastest way to get 55 visual effects done is to spend 2 years making an awesome plugin to to speed the process of doing visual effects, and then post it to Frame.io and wait for those glorious words from your director of final. And now I just need to do that 54 more times. Any questions? So that's about all the time I got. So saved a little time for questions if anybody's got any. About the film, about anything. Cool. All right, well, thank you all very much for coming. I really appreciate everybody showing up.